Hey everybody, want to welcome you back to Daughter of the Voice, my channel. Um, it's been almost a month since my first and only video. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I don't want to talk too much about it. I don't want to give too much airtime to the negativity, but I want to be straightforward about what was going on. So I had mentioned, the hesitation and just the back and forth that was going on with me, with when to begin and how to do it and everything like that. And the Most High, Yah, telling me to just go ahead and start the channel. And I will consider myself seasoned. I'm a seasoned believer. I've been in church all my life, and I've known who we were as the true people for over 10 years now. So I'm accustomed to warfare and things like that, and I knew that Satan, Shaitan, was going to try some way to attack. One of his favorite ways to try to attack me is with my health. So here's where I messed up, and this is a lesson. I knew that he was going to attack once I started. Once I was obedient, I started my channel and put that first video out there and got over those first video jitters. I knew that he was going to attack. And instead of preparing and praying against it and going to Yah about it, I was kind of just spending time like, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? Not in a worrisome way. I guess you can kind of say even in that moment, I underestimated the effects or what could take place. And he does not want me doing this. He does not want me using the gift that Yah gave me. He does not want me speaking about the things that I have been shown and told. He doesn't want this. And so what followed was a sinus infection. Now, that's getting into more personal things. Maybe I could share that, my testimony about my health in another video, but these type of things used to be really, really severe for me. And Yah said that I wouldn't be allowed to be touched in as severe way as has been in times past. So what happened was that for most people, what I went through was still pretty rough, but it wasn't the worst of what I had experienced. However, it lingered for so long. I was out of work for 2 weeks. Yeah, I was out of work for 2 weeks. And one of the main reasons is because no sleep, being up all night with all of this mucus and phlegm coming out, but also instantly by the end of the first week, I had no voice. And even as I'm talking now, haven't been back to work since last Tuesday, my voice, especially in morning and night, trails in and out. Still, I am like 99.9% much better than I was. The grogginess and things still comes, but we're going to move forward. We're going to do what we're here to do. He's not stopping no show. I'm never not going to do what God tells me to do. I'm just not. So I had already resolved in myself. I said, I'm sitting around trying to figure out, like, when is this going to be over so I can go ahead and make my next video. And I was like, no, I'm doing it now. With the voice I have, with the amount of strength I have, with the testimony I have of being much better, and having that flexibility in the PTO at work to be home and take care of myself and have my husband and my family take care of me. Yah gets the praise. Yah gets the esteem. what Satan meant for bad turned out to be for my good. And I did eventually end up getting rest, and I'm still resting when I can. And um, and in that quiet time, I got to spend more time with Yah. I got to spend more time, and he was preparing me for this next video. So we are moving on. We're moving on, and this is video number 2. And this particular message and video is called Beast System Prophecy Cell Block Checks in American Neighborhoods. Beast System Prophecy Cell Block Checks in American Neighborhoods. And what Yah wants me to talk about is one of the many prophetic dreams he gave me as a child. As I discussed in my first video, I've been getting dreams and visions since I was a single-digit child. This dream in particular is one that God would later on give me the revelation of in life. And this dream was a recurring dream. Like, recurring, not just 1, 2, or 3 times. Way into my teen years, this dream would recur. And I understand now why y'all would do that, because at the time I didn't know what I was. I didn't know what my gift was. I didn't even know where these dreams were coming from. Again, I thought I was just a scary child who had these elaborate nightmares. But they were coming from the Most High. And the repetitiveness of those dreams allowed for them to be imprinted in me and drilled into my memory, and emphasized the crucial nature of what was being conveyed. So the purpose of revealing this dream is to do my due diligence, right? And warn people. I am by no means the only voice out here. I'm not. But I must do my part. It is imperative that we be aware and not caught off guard by the things that's happening to us and around us. Yah took me to Ezekiel 12. And in Ezekiel 12, the people had become so, I want to say, like, complacent, and then almost in a space of mocking. You know, Yah, as he often did with Ezekiel, took him through some things first. And he did it in a public way so that the people had to see him go through it, because what he'd been through was symbolic and in some cases literal representation of what they were about to go through. And so Ezekiel would go through what he's going through, and he would give the prophecy, and the people would just be looking like they weren't buying it. At times, because there was so many other false voices out, they would just be like, oh, you know, it's not that serious, or it's not going to be quite like that, or they assumed that it would be delayed, or they assumed foolishly that it would be so far off that it wouldn't even apply to them, that it was not important for them to know. And so our people were so stiff-necked and unbothered by what Ezekiel was trying to show them. And this was an offense to Yah. So he stated, because of their attitude, basically their nonchalance, that no longer would there be so many false visions or messages that would cloud what was real, the messages and prophetic nature that was actually from him. There wouldn't be an excuse anymore. And there would no longer be such a delay of things happening, and they would no longer be so far off that people could choose to ignore it. The moment he would speak it, he would count it as done. This was the message that he was given to them. Because of their attitude, because of their mocking, because of their complacency, these things would be counted as done as soon as he spoke it. And there would be no room for variation or it changing or being delayed or afar off. And so likewise, Yah is saying with this prophetic dream that he gave me, it shall come to pass, and it's going to come to pass In the lifetime of many who are alive today, I don't have a date. I'm not going to make up things like that or give an exact time or an amount of years. All I know, whether it's your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, people who are alive today will live to see the things that I'm discussing, like this specifically, the things like in this dream, they will live to see it. And so it's no longer far off. It's no longer so way down the line. It's right around the proverbial corner. So that's why it's important to discuss it. So this recurring dream, there are different versions of this dream that I've gotten throughout the years. The version that I'm recounting today is the one I've gotten the most. It represents all the most important things. It's the blaring version that's always been in my head for years. I started getting this dream, like I said, sometime before the age of 10, and it continued to visit me all the way into my teenage years until it finally just stopped. And it's been imprinted there in my memory since then. The events of this dream always took place at night. That's important. I didn't know it then, but there's a symbolic nature of spiritual darkness that happens in dreams and visions. And so that's not to say that these things don't take place literally at night as well. But when there's a repetitiveness of nighttime, when the darkness in the dream or the vision is almost tangible, like you can feel it, when it seems darker than the darkness of your outside that you're used to, when it stands out that way, it's usually because it's describing dark times. It's usually describing essentially a darkness that is indicative of the times that it's in. It's giving you a time frame like this is going to happen during really dark times. Okay, and we can look to the Bible to back this up. So 1 Thessalonians 5:1-6 says, "Now, brothers, as to the times and the seasons, you do not need to be written to, for you yourselves know very well that the day of Yahuwah comes as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, then suddenly destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. But you, brothers, are not in darkness, so that this day should overtake you as a thief. For you are all sons of light and sons of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. So then we should not sleep as others do, but we should watch and be sober." And then John 9:4-5 says, "It is necessary for me to work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one is able to work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Both of these passages draw comparisons between day and night as it refers to spiritual matters, times and events. And one of the times is the time of the beast system. Also note it speaks of being sober and aware of what is coming, which is yet another confirmation of my earlier point that Yah wants me to share this dream for the sake of people being aware, being sober, for us to be in a place of level-headedness and understanding what we're seeing and not being super reactive and freaking out over everything. Okay, so now to the dream. In this dream, my family and I was in our West Philly home. That's where I'm from, West Philly. We were in our West Philly row home, and it would be nighttime outside, as I said. Inside the house, we would be living life regularly. in different variations of the dream. We might have been all sitting down watching TV. Some of us might have been scattered throughout the house, doing our own thing, or just preparing for the next day. I always remember the TVs being specifically situated by the front door, between the front window and the front door, in the living room of the house. And so we would just be in the house as usual. It'd be a regular night, so to speak. And the comfort found within those four walls, the fine familiarity of an evening at home, would be disrupted by a presence on a block. Sometimes the alert was a knock at the door. Sometimes it was a sound and just a knowing. There would be this sudden feeling of woe that would come, a terror-filled anxiety that would just like fill the atmosphere, that would fill our stomachs, and like lumps in our throat and chest pounding, stomach woozy, all those things wrapped in once. It would just suddenly be this feeling and the knowing that they were here. And so everybody like, who's the they? Well, the they that I'm speaking of is an authoritative force, the likes of which we've not experienced on American soil. And not to this degree towards everyone. Okay? If you get what I'm saying. So this goes beyond your local law enforcement, beyond any branch of military as we recognize it today. The power and authority that they wielded was unlike what we've known, and every single person that lived in this country was subject to it. They would do these random pop-ups, and it just brought this heaviness. Like I said, it would just bring this heaviness. And it was understood that no matter what you're doing, when they show up, everything stops. Everything pauses immediately, no matter what you're doing. And what they would do could be compared to like a prison cell block check, but to the extreme, okay? They would start at the top of the block, checking each home and all the residents or anybody that was in your home at the time. During this time, everyone's front door was to be open, and everyone that was in the house had to remain by the front door and be in plain sight. You couldn't be hidden, couldn't be off to the side doing your own thing, you couldn't be sleeping, nothing. Everybody that was in the house had to be near the front door in plain sight while these checks were happening. And sometimes they would do the whole block. Most times they would do the whole block. Sometimes they would just pick random houses, like, we're going to go here, and you wouldn't know what the order was. You wouldn't know if you were going to be one of the picked. You just didn't know. But the same rules apply until they were done. Even if they were doing only a few homes, everyone still had to be with their doors open, standing and waiting. They would never say, this is what we're looking for, or do you have this, or is this kind of person here, or anything. There was like hardly any communication. There was hardly any conversation at all. There was a stillness and a coldness to the whole ordeal. It seemed to be their purpose, more than to find violations, whatever those violations were, to invoke fear. That was the ultimate purpose. They wanted to invoke fear. They wanted to keep it fresh in our mind that they could and would invade our space at any given time. You know, you're sitting there laughing with your family. You could have been doing this for a month, feeling like everything is normal. And then they pop up to remind you that you're not free, to remind you that they have complete control, So yeah, that seemed to be their ultimate purpose. And to remind you that you're basically prisoners in your own home. You're prisoners in your own home. And the moment the door would close and everything was over, the relief was palpable. Like it was almost tangible. It was in the air. The relief that swooped over everyone. Like we would go back to whatever so-called regular is. And I don't even recall that we would ever speak on what had just happened. We would just go on with our lives, happy to have survived another search. So this was the recurring dream that Yah would later lead me to discover and learn was a prophecy about the coming beast system. It will be the beast's great pleasure to inflict as much pain on this country as possible. And while the whole world will eventually follow suit, there is an especially unpleasant exchange to take place between Babylon the whore and the beast. And to be clear, when we talk about the beast, we're talking about the Antichrist. There's the spirit of Antichrist, and then there's the actual physical embodiment that a particular person will be in the fullness of, and it is the beast. And so the beast system is coming. Revelation 17:15 through 16 says, "And he said to me, the waters which you saw, where the horse sits, are peoples and crowds and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these shall hate the whore." The whore is Babylon, the whore is this country, okay? "And lay her waste, and naked, and eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." So as I stated, there is a specific exchange, and a specific and unpleasant exchange that takes place between Babylon and the beast. Between Babylon, the whore, and the beast. Humiliation is coming to this place. This place will be humbled in a way that the overall consensus is that it can't be. And that consensus is not held by other places. It's held by the people here. It's held by the narrative, that the self-proclaimed narrative of this country that we live in, that it can't be touched, that certain things can't and shouldn't and would never happen here. And we're already starting to see that that's not true. Anybody paying attention, we're already starting to see that that's not true. But it's going to be beyond doubt at this point. And so humiliation is coming, loss of freedoms, way beyond what we see. You know, some of us already know what it's like to not have much freedom. Many of us, beyond the usual people, are already starting to experience that, and to realize that the idea of freedom has been almost a bit of a lie anyway, to an extent. In this place, it's not been what it has made itself to be. Okay, but beyond that, way beyond that, there will be so many freedoms lost. And what we see happening now in this place, the sights and the travesty of justice we see happening today, are just precursors. They're precursors for tomorrow's beast system. And there's no stopping it. That's important to know. This is not going to be stopped. I cannot tell you exactly when. I don't know if the great exodus of Yah's people happens before or after. All I know for a fact is that Yah says these things will take place. Events such as the ones in the dream that I just gave you, and worse will happen, and it is not so far off. Prophecy has to unfold. The beast system will rise, but it will also fall by our Redeemer's hand, Yahushua HaMashiach, aka Jesus Christ. That is the only way that is going to come to a halt. That is he has the final say so in that. But as far as it starting, as far as it kicking off, as far as these things happening, it's part of Yah's judgment to this place. The beast is a weapon that he wields, and the beast itself props up its believers only to tear them down. In true nature of his daddy, of Shaitan. So, you may ask, if it's unavoidable, what is the point of knowing? Why do we need to discuss this? Why should we talk about this? Why should we, prematurely take this information in? And I want to take you to Luke 21. I really suggest strongly that you read the whole chapter. But Luke 21, 26 through 28 says, men fainting from fear and the expectation of what is coming on the earth. For the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then they shall see the Son of Adam coming on a cloud with power and much esteem. And when these matters begin to take place, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. Okay? So there's a couple important things just in this part of the chapter. You don't want to be one whose heart fails them from fear, who is so shocked, who is so bewildered by it all, that you're dropping dead, that you're unable to think, unable to function. You don't want that. You know what I mean? So that in and of itself is reason enough to be aware ahead of time. But also, excuse me, the other purpose is to know, that our redemption draws near. There's a certain number and specific signs. Like I said, if you read this whole chapter, and there are other chapters as well, it says when you see this and when these things happen, and many of these things have already happened, but it's just letting us know, it gets like halfway through the list, and it says, and even then the time is not yet, but it is near. Our justification, our redemption, our Redeemer is coming back. Okay? So that's why it's important to know. That's why it's important to pay attention to prophecy, to pay attention to read, to know Yah's word, to listen and to look and to be sober-minded, so that you can not be overtaken, so that it doesn't come to you as a thief in the night. So that you're not caught without oil for your lamp, so to speak. So that is the point. Okay. Like I said, this was the one that he wanted me to share next. And as short as the dream seems, the terror and the anxiety of it seemed to last so long, with just these people that you've never seen before, that have more power than you've ever experienced. If you've ever been afraid of any law enforcement, this is times 20. And you don't, the surprise of it all, the unknown, you don't know what they're going to do, what's going to tick them off, if they want to make an example out of you, if they're going to say they found something, or what they're going to say next that you can't have in your house, or who you can't have in your house. You don't know. All you know is that They're here, they're coming, and you're subject to it. You're not free. Your home is not your private place. And so again, I do want to put a note in there that when it comes to prophecy, one of the things I've seen a mistake on the end of both those given the prophecy and those receiving it is to not be able to filter through and listen for the set apart spirit voice as to what is being said. There are times where Yah will say something is going to happen exactly like this, and it's very detailed, and it's word for word, and he's saying exactly like this. You're going to walk on the left side of the street, and as soon as you come to the turn, this is going to happen, and this person's going to be wearing this. And there are times like that. And then there's times where the overarching message is the prophecy. And so understand, like I said, I was a child when I was given this prophetic dream that would keep occurring. And so he gave it to me in a way that I could understand then, even not knowing what it was. And so that being said, I'm not saying, oh, when this happens, it's going to be this many people and they're going to be standing at the top of your block. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen in that way. How many people, if they're going to tell you in advance, if it's definitely going to happen at night. Like I said, the night part was more symbolic than anything. The point is that these type of checks, these type of searches, being a prisoner in your own home, this authoritative force, the beast system coming and humiliating you and everyone that lives here, that is going to happen, and it's not a far off. Them coming into your homes, them having full reign over what you do, what you can do, who's in your house, who's not in your house. These are things that are coming. And many people have seen it, many people have talked about it, many people have proclaimed it, prophesied about it, written about it. If you're familiar with George Orwell's book 1984, it is no secret. It really shouldn't come as a surprise, but again, it's just a matter of where you are in your journey and your walk, and whether you've been ready to receive and accept that it's coming. And so I hope that was informative to someone. I know that because God told me to do it, that it's going to do what it was sent out to do. I thank you for joining me once again. I thank you guys for watching. Please watch if you're interested. If you want to keep up with my videos, please like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, so have a blessed evening or day, whatever time, wherever you are watching this. And I love you guys. Bye.